Welcome back to my channel. This is video 2 of my life coaching series. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Lisa, and I'm doing a series on life coaching yourself to success, whatever success means to you. It could be just a personal journey or trying to get a business startup going, anything like that. So again, whatever success looks like to you. So life coaching is very much just a process of just getting out of your own way and learning new tools to implement in a particular way. In this video, I also reference an important Harvard study, actually, goal study, that you should take note of and provide a few it helps to provide a few starter ideas on goal setting. So the point is to get you thinking about things and to make you take action and get you moving in a direction of your choosing. So instead of waiting for life circumstances to show up and you make random decisions and you scramble under pressure to figure out those solutions, in the aftermath, I hope to give you a sense of how to plan A, B, and C so that you're not caught off guard and you're able to sort of deconstruct some of those old patterns and things that block you. So blockages manifest in ways obviously that help you to stay stuck. So it would be things like having uncertainties, insecurities, questions you can't find solutions to, you've run out of resources, you don't know which direction to turn, or that you simply feel bored and you lack the motivation to take action on whatever the project is that you think is important to you. So maybe it is important to you, or maybe it's not important enough because there's a step missing. So you need to know where you are right now in that process, and you start asking yourself questions, and before skipping steps, sometimes you need to take a step back and consider some of those questions and write out the answers, because writing it down does matter, and that relates to the goal study, Harvard goal study that I'll mention later. So feel free to think about parts of the steps that excite you and keep you moving forward, but stay primarily focused on where you stand at this stage. At least do a little bit of research at each part of the series so that you have a sense of where you are and where you might have some blockages, because when you have blockages, you don't always know why you're not taking action on something, even though you have an interest in playing the piano, or you have an interest in writing, but you're still not taking action. So there's generally some kind of incongruency that is standing in the way of you achieving that goal. So something to consider is this your scenario? You're sitting back on the couch to unwind after work. After all, you've earned that time. You worked all day for someone else. You deserve that downtime. But you still can't relax because you still feel wound up, frustrated that you're not getting more done, that you haven't the energy to clean the house, or you don't have the energy to finish a project, start writing on a paper or a book, or finish a painting, cut the grass, whatever it might be. So maybe you're a student, maybe you take too many courses or just take a lot of courses, and you never get a chance to implement your knowledge. You don't get a chance to travel, spend time with friends, whatever. There's other things that are obviously help to make up a world that make us feel more balanced. So there might also be another scenario where you feel you always have to prove yourself and nothing you do is good enough to present to the world, so you never get started because you're too busy perfecting every detail or waiting on people to step up and help you. After all, that's not your level of expertise, so you need to find just the right person or someone who can be a part of the team before anything can start. Sometimes the level of expectation, or over-analysis paralysis, or learning just for the sake of learning and not knowing where you're headed with it, diminishes our enthusiasm to take action or create anything, or even to explore where it could be taken. So basically, no enthusiasm for a goal equals no action. Focusing on the outcome, however, is important. Focus on the outcome that you want rather than the process, and that'll help you stay motivated. It gives you a little more excitement when you think about the outcome of where you could be, that end goal. But taking small, actionable steps toward the goal always allows you to keep promises to yourself and stay on track. And that helps to build your confidence. So a lot of times the reason why we don't act on our goals and take action is simply because we don't feel confident enough. Nothing is precise enough or thought out well enough to be able to present, like I said. So when you keep small goals to yourself, when you make small actionable steps and you meet those goals, that helps you to feel confident in trusting yourself. You don't have to have all the answers at this stage, but you will have more options as you go along because you'll start to see how things line up together. So taking 3 actions each week toward the end or toward the goal. So by the end of the week, you want to know that you've made taken 3 actionable steps toward that goal to feel that you can trust yourself to move on to the next step. Another thing is when you think about the outcomes, consider things like maybe you don't need that team of experts for some time yet. Perhaps there are so many more small steps that need to be done and that you're thinking is too far in the future that you're choosing not to take action. So these are some of the other things that hold us back. So if the outcome, random idea, is to start a skating club, you don't overthink all the details. You brainstorm. You look for someone else that you can model that has already done that, or that maybe are able to offer some input. You then the next step might be to post signs around the library or online, just to make sure that you have waivers and things that cover any of the legalities that might crop up. You want to start breaking down details, but what's most important is that you prioritize and then work out the smaller details as you go along. So there are considerable resources out there to help you take action and to keep fueling the idea. So never feel like you're at a loss. Next step is when to explore your reasons in goal setting. Start learning what you do like and the things that you don't like about the activities you do. Do you like to be around a lot of people? Do you like to read a lot of books? Are you more introverted? Is there things that you place a lot of meaning and value and purpose on that you feel must be a part of that journey or your goal? But basically, if you don't know what you like or dislike, you're going to have some difficulties moving ahead. But by also not exploring or playing around with possibilities or building on some of the uncomfortable places, once you accomplish one goal, you can take a step towards something that's slightly more uncomfortable, but it's not a huge step so that it stymies you in actually going forward. So activities that we do during the day often are just activities that keep us busy. They don't move us toward a goal. We're just busy being busy. So sure, you need to buy the milk and the butter, but it's not a pressing goal. It's just an activity that you like to do to finish a part of your grocery shopping or whatever. But again, it's not moving you forward in any particular way other than, yes, you can feed yourself and put butter on your bread in the morning. So you want to look for more efficient ways to accomplish your goals. So can you do all of your shopping on Saturdays or on Sundays? Start clustering things together to make more efficient use of your time. As with a work situation, can you delegate some of those activities out on the home front as well to afford you a little more time and spare you a little energy? I realize that children, especially teenagers, aren't especially motivated to roll with things on that level, but nonetheless, do what you can where you can. So you could easily spend all day doing errands or watching TV or cleaning the house, and at the end of the day, week, month, or year, you might have a sense of pride because you had a really clean house. You might feel more relaxed watching TV. But then you hit 50 or whatever that significant age is to you, whatever that prominent age is that you stop and you reflect and say, is that all I've done? Is that all I've accomplished? Will you still be content knowing that you passed up writing a book or moving ahead on a goal just because you felt this strong urge to clean house? So it's not to say that cleaning house isn't important, but sometimes we have to create a little sacrifice to be able to move ahead on a particular goal. And if 9/10 of our day is spent working for other people and moving them ahead on their agendas and on their goals, then it also means we don't get a chance to invest in ourselves and our own Well, and we don't get a chance to invest in ourselves, and we don't get a chance to move ahead on something that may have significant value to us and give us a sense of worth at the end of the day. When somebody is to speak of who you were in life, just as an example, grim as it may be, if somebody was speaking at your funeral, how would they phrase your life? Were you somebody who was just a really kind person and you did a lot of good in life and that's how you want to be remembered? Fine. But if you were somebody who wanted to make a difference and you were a really kind person and you went out there and you donated time at Salvation Army or Mustard Seed or whatever the other particular groups out there for abused women, or, as I say, you could be a big brother, things of that nature, then that changes the dynamic. So you're not just a good person, you're also a good person on a bigger community level. So you have to look at the things explore some of the things in a little more detail that help you to define what being good is or looks like to you. So anything that you commit to is going to be more definable if you are able to write it in a journal or a binder or whatever book, put it on the computer, whatever is your style, whatever works for you. So basically you want to start asking your questions. Did you lead an inspired life? Did you build a dream? Was there a vehicle that you wanted to build from the ground up that you never got the chance to do? But if you were to think about the things that you want to do in life, you need to start asking yourself those questions and document it in a journal. By the end of the week, you will start to see where you do have some blockages. And interestingly enough, not only will you start to see some of the things that you've stopped yourself on, you start wondering, well, why did I stop myself? Did I find I was too busy because it was really urgent for me to cut the grass 12 times? So these are the things you have to dissect. If you are somebody who feels security is really important to you, what does security look like? Sorry about that. So what does security look like? Is security owning a home? Is security having, supportive people in your life? And if you don't have those supportive people, how will you operate to create a sense of security for yourself? If you can't gain that through family and friends, are there other support networks that would be able to support you along that way? And the other thing is, sometimes when you tell people about your goals and dreams, some books will say, oh, it's a good idea to tell everybody what you're doing. That way you feel like you've got to commit to yourself. But I think in the beginning, to get yourself started, it's not a good idea, because I think you need to really commit to yourself first and habituate some new patterns before you start telling other people what you're doing, because you may not have accomplished a lot in 1 week or 2 weeks, and somebody's going to call you on it and say, well, you weren't really that serious. And then you might start to question yourself, and then you battle with that for 2 weeks. So better to, when you initially start a project or start something, start doing small incremental steps and things that you feel will where you can build your own level of confidence, trust in yourself that you're going to commit, and complete those goals. And then further along down the road, when you feel a little more confident, if somebody tosses a negative comment at you or takes a hit in some way toward the way in which you're doing something, you'll be a little more prepared and better able to deal with fielding that off anyway. So anyway, back to what does security look like to you? Do you want to own a big boat? Do you want to own a big house? Do you want just a lot of friends and family around and to have closer relationships? Things along that line is what you want to write down in a journal. So what do you feel you need, and I do mean need, not want. What do you feel you need to have that anchors you enough to go forward? Do you need to have a stable foundation? Generally, yes. Do you need to have a lot of space to be able to write or create? Because if your place is covered with things that you need to clean or things that you need to move out of the way before you can get to that project, you're not likely to start and take action. So you either need to consider going elsewhere, to a coffee shop or a bookstore or whatever, or a library, or some other location that you feel you have a little more space to engage in that activity. And again, efficiency and productivity and accountability all matter in a job. So try to transfer some of those same responsible commitments to your own goal at home, or, basically after work. So always ask yourself, is there a better way where you're investing in yourself? And even if you're putting in more time to make it happen, you find the work more enjoyable, and you're always putting in time in a job and meeting someone else's agenda. So why can't you do that for yourself? You have to start asking yourself things as well, like, can you still, sorry about that, cat. So yeah, I have to ask yourself things like, can you still be at a job where you're tired and get things done? Of course, a lot of us do that. You still really dragged out at the end of the day, but you still, when you're tired in the mornings, you still get up, you still drink the coffee, and you head to work, and you still do your job. So try to think in terms of, I don't need to unwind right away. I can spend that extra half an hour working on a project or something that's important to me. So again, why can't you invest a little time in your day applying the same strategy to yourself? Sure, it may not pay the bills yet, but it might eventually. And so you can't, and if you're doing something that is from the heart and that you're motivated to do, you're not going to stop yourself every 5 minutes and say, this is a waste of my time, because it's giving back to the world. It's sending some message out there that follows, or that is in line with your values or your belief system. So the other thing is too, when you think about activities that you like to do, sports, for example, maybe you're out there playing baseball or hockey, or reading a book for hours at a time, and you almost get to the end of the story, and then you think, oh, it's so late, but you complete the story, you complete the book, you stay up the extra half an hour. That's that zone that you want to be in to create. So it's when time just passes and you don't even realize that you had a lot of fun doing whatever it was. And so that's the zone we're looking for. Every project that you start with generally tends to have some difficulty in starting and beginning, simply because it takes some time to think about it. It takes some time to structure it out. It takes some time to believe that you can do it. And confidence is a really big part of taking the first step. So basically, what I'm saying is, don't be looking for leaps and bounds. Just start on a project. But again, every week, regardless, write down questions, things that you can ask yourself about, why did it take me 2-3 days to get started on that project? What were the things that were in my way? Start looking at the things that you use to fill your day and keep you from moving on your goal. Because if you start to see the things that you use as a distraction to keep you from moving forward, you'll start to see that it's just your way of avoiding a painful, unhabituated task. It's something that you don't normally do, and so it's painful to do because it's not easy enough. You actually have to invest a part of yourself to make it happen. But something to note is, as you invest time and energy, you start to see where things are going, and things actually get easier. And then there's a new challenge, and then you find another solution, and then it gets easier again and again, and so on and so on. So it's no different than when you lose one job, and then you'll end up looking for another, and then you learn new skills in one job that don't transfer over to the next job. And so you're constantly learning a new set of tools and a new skill set. So as we get comfortable learning and adapting to change, you become more resilient. So other things to think about, or do you have any business ideas? Or again, can you manage? And then other things to think about would be, can you manage with less? So, and able to make time or build stronger relationships. Can you make more time for those things? How do you make more time for those things? So basically, is it important enough to sacrifice a little time each week, time and money, to get yourself started? So Steve Jobs started in a garage. Colonel Sanders sold door to door until he sold his recipe. But now the internet and a host of other informational sources and things are easier, and they're much closer. Everything's at your fingertips. So you have to get past fear, because this is one of the easier times to get things done. And again, you have more resources. So you need to start asking those questions again regularly, because that's where your blockages are. What are you drawn to learn? Do you overplease? Do you take on more than you can handle? Why do you avoid the dishes? Outside of the fact that it's completely boring, but nonetheless, still have to eat off a dish. But, you know, do you ignore people because you constantly need to relax and unwind, and your mind is too crazy, monkey mind, as they say? Do you have a lot of responsibilities? Can you delegate those out, or delegate a few of them out, or do they all have to be priorities? You want to get your ideas out into the world, and most importantly, you know, at the end of the day, taking one small action, even per week, is moving forward. But if you're taking 3 small actions, I think you're going to move there a little bit faster, and it's a little easier to see some of the progress, which would also help to motivate. So anyway, basically prioritizing. So prioritize 3 of your top concerns versus everything, seeing everything as important and needing to be done, because that's not called balance. That is just keeps you so frustrated that you're never able to achieve it. And at the end of this video, I'll give you a few ways that help you to structure goal setting. So you need to learn to prioritize. This is where chunking comes in. So in short, you're going to break down the areas of your life into categories on a page. You'll have financial categories, you'll have relationship categories, spiritual categories, whatever the important things are to you. Those are the things you want to focus on: fitness goals, personal goals, spiritual goals. But try to delineate 1 page for each type of goal, and then you're going to take 3 actionable steps for each goal. But you're not going to do them all in 1 week. You're going to focus on all for 1 week. You're going to focus on fitness goals if that's your top priority goal. So you're going to number the headings. So financial goal is your very first priority, because you're really struggling with finances and you can't seem to move on anything, and it causes you a lot of stress and anxiety. Then you're going to focus on that for a week, and you could put 3 top priorities that would help you to take action in making life better on a financial level. You might do it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever you feel is completely out of balance and needs to have some attention. And then you want to draw, just outside of those individual pages, you want to draw a circle, and you want to divide it into pie shape. So in each of those pie shapes, I want you to draw 2 circles. In fact, the first one, you're going to show what you basically spend most of your time on. So if you spend most of your time on your children and errands, I want you to draw a big part of the pie in those areas. Then I want you to draw what's important to you in the second pie, so that things balance out a little bit more. What percentage of time do you want to spend on relationships? What percentage do you really want to spend on your finances? So that's 2 circles, 2 pies, and each section has its own page: fitness goals, personal goals, spiritual goals, love goals, relationships, finances, that kind of thing. You then want to step back, and when you start to see where things are out of balance, or where you've neglected, because after a couple of weeks, you're going to start to see that I spend most of my time just, shuffling the kids around to activities, or I spend most of my time just picking up groceries and dropping off things. So that's where you want to look for where you're wasting time. So you want to, in your journal, you want to write down things, not to the point where it's ad nauseum, where there's like 40 different activities that you need to get done, and you never really get a chance to do them because they're so overwhelming, and you freeze at the thought of going to, clear out the garage, for example. So you want to be able to do a little bit each day. So on projects, this might be a good thing to start as well. If you're not prepared to start on your financial goals, your spiritual goals, fitness goals, all that right away, think of smaller things around the house that you can take action on, so that you get in the habit of completing goals, mini goals, even though they aren't things that make you enthusiastic, but that would give you a level of freedom. So it frees you up, frees a part of your mind. Sometimes people need to really see space in a place to be able to create or to be able to unlock and act. But you can't be so obsessed that every day the house has to be spotless, that you spend more time on that than you do on anything that you would do for yourself. So if you need to start with small goals like getting the garage organized, then start with that. Practice structuring in your mind's eye how the garage will look once you have it arranged as you need it to be. You can do one action every 2 days on cleaning the garage, so you're not feeling overwhelmed by it, and you're just taking out a box or two each day, and giving that to the Sally Ann or putting it on Facebook to sell, whatever the case might be, and that also gives you a little extra money. So anyway, try to look for things that are advantageous to you to do. So again, list 3 actionable steps to get organized and work it out through the week as to how you will achieve it. So declutter, sell items, donate to a shelter, whatever you feel is relevant. Trying to estimate time at this point may not be realistic. So give yourself a reasonable number of days or weeks to account for just getting started on the project so you don't frustrate yourself. So maybe you need to create the room, as I said, or the space to be able to create, but you can work on a little bit of that each day and then still go out to the bookstore or still go out to the library or the coffee shop and try to get done a little bit on your own project in that space, but you're still working on the little space at home you're trying to unclutter so that you can actually do something at home as well. Sometimes people can't really do things at home simply because it's a place where you tend to want to relax in a room. And so when you think about doing a whole bunch of activity in that room, it's again incongruent to what you would normally do in that room. Sometimes you take a look around and you're like, oh my God, everything is a mess. So all I want to do is clean. And so again, your mind is so filled, you're not able to move ahead. You're not able to unlock. So don't get so caught up again in cleaning that you start to forget about your main goal. And sometimes changing locations, getting some support, going with people to, help brainstorm on something just to keep you excited about that goal is also another way of going ahead. Start with things that you already know that need to be done and that you procrastinate on, and to get yourself in the habit of organizing and taking action. So again, things like when you're standing in a lineup and you have time to think about how and why you behave as you do. Why am I procrastinating? Am I really tired? Because if I'm really tired, then how come I was still able to go shopping and, pick up birthday stuff and, also, make some time to pick up Facebook items or whatever and travel for hours. So you have to say to yourself, what's really important, is your goal, or just keeping yourself busy so that you feel like you're too busy to actually do anything. But again, it's not a goal. These are just things that keep you busy. So when you're standing in a lineup, you have time, think about those things. Do you procrastinate because the task seems too big? Start to break things down. If that's the case, get a binder, again, write everything down, because at the end of each week, when you start to see your own blockages, it'll also help you to remind yourself of your achievements when you actually do overcome a hurdle. And again, it's also another way of documenting your progress. So keep a weekly account of how far you moved on that goal. But beware, all goals must be specific, measurable, attainable, and realistic. So let me say that again. It is specific, measurable, attainable, and realistic. So a lot of what we fear relates to judgment, criticism, limiting beliefs, and low self-esteem, a lot of those things. But remember, what you learned can also be unlearned. So everything is fixable, trainable, learnable. So stymied energy blocks your personal growth, and without doing a little footwork, you cannot identify, let alone change and implement new patterns or strategies to move ahead. We need to know where to shine a little light on the dark areas so that you can show up in the world the way you want to be seen. So why set goals? Here's why. And this is the Harvard study. The Harvard study was conducted in 1979 through to 1989, 10-year study. Graduates of an MBA program were asked to set clear intentions on their goals and plans upon graduation. So 13% had goals that were not in writing, and 84% had no specific goals, so nothing was in writing. 3% had written goals, and that result at the end of the 10-year MBA study of graduates, 13% who had goals that were not in writing earned on average twice as much as the 84% who had no goals. But even more remarkable, 3% of those that had clearly written goals and plans upon graduation earned on average 97% more than all the graduates together. So that only difference between each group was the degree of clarity in planning and in writing down goals. So writing things out encourages you to commit to yourself and to the goal's completion. You also begin to trust yourself when you are able to accomplish certain goals. So some people do a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal. So you might want to start with a 6-month goal or a 3-month goal, something a little smaller, and then you can work your way through once you're familiar with how to goal set. So when things are left in our minds without daily movement and action or a step toward completion, we then allow other things to crowd in our thoughts. Did we finish the dishes? Did we take the car in for maintenance? Maybe I should clean the car. Did we organize, and clean the house or clean the car? There was the argument with the children, the spouse, your family ate up so much time and energy. Either way, you're exhausted and you can't take action is the bottom line. So they are not all priorities. But they certainly may be things that we like done again. And that helps us to feel more comfortable sitting on the couch in action. Did we have to take that argument earlier? Did we have to take it on? How much time did we spend on that personal debate or argument that went nowhere? Time well wasted or well invested? Did we win? Did you further your position? Or was it just a wild amount of energy invested with no resolve? So pick your battles wisely, people. Pick your activities wisely. Stop and think about things before you do them. Your time is not endless. You need to recognize limits and create boundaries so that your time is realistically directed toward activities that support your goal. So not everyone is at the same level of understanding as well, and it may take years of battling at the expense of your goals, energy, time, and your life satisfaction and overall enjoyment. So life is about learning to accept things you cannot control and find ways to affect changes in others by making changes within yourself. So step back. Sometimes you just can't take on every battle. You can't change people in that moment. You're not going to get everything that you want. So you either have to find some measure of agreeance, meeting in the middle. There's no 50-50 on the average. Usually there's a 30-70 split or whatever. But either way, you have to be willing to be a little uncomfortable to get things done and make some small sacrifices, which may include not taking on every argument every step of the way. So remember to be true to yourself. Know what's important. Do things that add to your sense of self and purpose, and won't take bites out of you every time you think that the garbage must be taken out and the dishes all need to be done in the next half hour. Allow for flexibility in your life. Don't make rules for yourself and others that don't support a greater goal. Sometimes losing a battle saves the relationship. So it's important sometimes to just let the other person win for the sake of maintaining that relationship. So anyway, there are plenty of things in life that inconvenience us basically and slow us down. And especially when you're living with others, or if you're looking after a sick parent or whatever the case might be. And how we learn to support each other is in a more productive environment. And by listing off all the things that we are incompatible with, or things that aren't being met to our standard, is you picking apart things oftentimes that we don't like about ourselves, but it's also when you pick apart things to the degree that sometimes we fixate on, we are doing that to avoid also doing things that we would be moving toward as part of our goals. And we're looking for excuses, basically, is what I'm saying. We're looking for excuses to avoid taking action. So we focus on the dishes weren't done, the dishes weren't done, the dishes weren't done, and it becomes an obsession. So you need to find ways to decompress. You need to find ways to anchor yourself so that you're not feeling the levels of stress that you do. And as we go along through the videos, I will give you some of the tools that you can use for times like that, so that you're not so attached to that kind of outcome when you should be attached to your, the outcome that excites you. So try not to make big decisions as well. Under times of stress, when we're overtired, we seem less flexible, we're more fixated on things that irritate us, and we start lining them up. The socks were on the floor, the laundry wasn't done, the toilet wasn't flushed, whatever. So you have to step back and you keep a running picture or an actual picture on the fridge or in your room of that main goal, the thing that you're headed toward. So try not to, again, to make big decisions when you're exhausted. If these are decisions that are life altering, you definitely don't want to be making decisions when you're extremely exhausted or under severe stress. So we'll try to have you plan ahead with a few options like an ABC, so that when a potential obstacle or challenge is before you, you have a ready-made plan of action, so that things are better thought out and you're a little more broad-minded with solutions. Because when you're under stress, you might only see 2 solutions, but when you are in a more creative space and you're more relaxed, you see 10 solutions. So those things matter. It's better not to be random in trying to troubleshoot. So learning what you value most and prioritizing is key in reference to business. There's also some noteworthy things that have been said. Some millionaires actually have made reference to differences between the average middle class and the wealthy. Aside from thinking more independently and creatively and finding solutions to problems, others find fear in approaching. There are also differences in being able to face those uncomfortable situations. They are able to make quicker decisions, and they tend to be more willing to do more, spending the extra time on their dreams or goals. So, but again, everything is trainable, and you can learn how to make quicker decisions for yourself, for example, just by making small, consistent decisions that you're responsible for, and that will make it easier down the road for you to make bigger decisions. So where you don't have confidence now, you will have confidence later when you're able to make consistent steps toward responsible decisions. And as I say, the more often that you're able to approach the uncomfortable times and make quicker decisions, it's because you've made small decisions routinely enough that it didn't seem like that big a deal for you to make another bigger decision and another bigger decision. So again, that's confidence building. So sometimes it doesn't have to be in just having having people in your corner saying, "Oh my God, you're amazing, you're great, you really support me because you held my hand all the way down the road." Those things are great too, and you need those things. You always need somebody in your corner. But if you don't have that, you also have to be able to become self-aware and self-reliant and be able to do the self-talk for yourself. You have to be able to say, "You know what, I screwed up, not a big deal, back on the wagon." It doesn't define me. It's what I had to do to get to the next step. So it does make you stronger. The more resilient you are, the more creative you are, and the easier it is to find solutions. So that's the end of my second video, and I hope you stay tuned for the third video. And again, I will provide more tools and talk about some of the anchoring and brainstorming and other things along the way. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you soon.